and welcome to the very first Includability Employee Support Group of 2024. Now, if this is your first time with us on an Includability ESG, thank you so much for joining us. It's really wonderful to have you here, and a huge welcome to the family. And of course, to all of our returning community, just incredible to have you back. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We have a phenomenal lineup of guest speakers to kick off the year for you and inspire you on your journey in creating a healthier and more inclusive workplace culture for your business. I'm delighted to be joined by Hannah Kirtland, TEDx speaker and founder of B Corp Certified Kirtland & Co., Manuel Schlothauer, inclusion and belonging expert and founder of Hey Manuel, Melissa Sterling, Global Wellness and Belonging Manager at Holland Barrett. Great to have you, Mel. And our very own James Pravato, Marketing Director at Includability and DiSRUPT. But before we begin, please do feel free to introduce on the chat feed. If you've just come in, if you're happy just to mute your as well, that would be absolutely fantastic, and we can get that focus back onto our guest speakers. And we'd love you to share your LinkedIn profile if you'd be happy to do so. Please do connect with our brilliant guest speakers. They are fountains of knowledge, and I know that they catch up with you as well. Now, we are all about facilitating great introductions at Includability. And of course, there'll be a great opportunity to introduce yourselves in our breakout rooms in just under half an hour. We'll also be sharing various links in our chat feed over the course of the ESG, but please don't be shy. If you've got an upcoming event or some great news that you'd love to share, then please don't hesitate to pop that into the feed. We love shouting about the incredible work of our Includability community. Similarly, if there's more information that you need at any point around includability or to chat through how you can become an includability committed employer, then Danny, our lovely partnerships manager, and I are yours at any time. We're also both complete and utter floozies for a virtual cuppa. So anything that we can do to support you, just let us know, and we are absolutely there. Just a quick one on Danny. The man is a legend and will be taking part in the Land Aid Sleep Out in March to help raise much needed funds to support young people who are homeless or at risk of homelessness. Now, there's absolutely no pressure, but if there are any pennies that you were able to spare, then I know both Danny and Land Aid would be hugely grateful for your support. It's an incredible cause, and Chris will be a star and will be dropping that fundraising link in the chat feed for you. Just a quick one, just before I introduce our first guest speaker. I think we've got just a few of us on today who've still got kind of volume up loud. If I can just ask you just to kind of double check if you're on mute and kindly mute yourselves, then that would be fantastic. Thank you so much. That's perfect. And now, without further ado, I'm thrilled to introduce our very first guest speaker, the wonderful Hannah Kirtland, our resident impact partner expert and founder of Kirtland & Co. Hannah, thank you so much for joining us, and the virtual floor is yours.
Amazing. Thank you, Dave. And hi, everyone. Lovely to see you all again. Happy New Year, if I'm still allowed to say that. The last day of January, hopefully I am. So I've agreed with Dave that I am going to kick off today by talking about how you can make sure that you really do make a difference this year. Because I know in January, lots of us are setting intentions, resolutions, and, that's not just personal, it can also be business. We know that there are lots of businesses making big, bold statements about the impact that they want to have and the impact they want to have in 2024. So we're going to kick off today's session. I'm going to share 3 steps that you can take to ensure that your business actually does make a difference this year. So you take those intentions, you take that talk, those big, bold statements, and you actually turn them into action, and you actually make a difference. So I have some slides. They are very imagey, but hopefully for those of you like me who are visual, hopefully they will help bring it to life. So brilliant. So making sure you're actually making a difference this year. So the first step and the most important thing is setting your goals, because you need to be really intentional about the impact that you want to have. And so setting really clear, specific goals is the first crucial step in actually making progress within your business. And that applies to impact as much as it does to anything else. Now, I'd recommend that you set no more than 5 goals for the year, and you could choose to just set one, and that'd be fine. More than 5 and you tend to start losing focus, end up spreading yourself too thinly, and when you kind of dilute your energy, it means that you're less likely to make meaningful progress on anything. Now, what makes a good goal? And I know, I will be sharing stuff here, which is, lots of you will know already, but I think it's useful to sort of remind ourselves of it. What makes a good goal? It's that really tried and tested formula that you will probably be familiar with, and that's making them SMART. So specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And one of the questions that I use to kind of test a goal once I've created it is, will we all be crystal clear on whether it's been achieved at the end of the year? And if a goal's SMART, then whether it's been achieved or not should be black and white. There shouldn't be any debate or negotiation around it. And that's what I try and think about is, well, when we get to the end of the year, I mean, I think about it, I've got small children, and, if I say to them, right, you need to do X, and if you do X, then we will, have an ice cream, it needs to be totally black and white. We can't have room for negotiation. It needs to be really clear on whether X has been achieved. So for as an example, imagine that one of your goals for this year is measuring the carbon footprint of your business. Now, that's not very smart because there's a whole load of detail in there, but a smart way of writing that goal could be, by the 31st of December 2024, we will know our carbon footprint, scopes 1 and 2, and have a plan in place for how to reduce it, including timelines and targets. Now, don't worry whether, that may sound like gobbledygook if you're not close to carbon footprints, but it's much more specific as to what you are actually going to be measuring, what you're not going to be measuring, and what's going to be in place by that specific date, 31st of December. So that is a SMART objective. Now, it's all very well having those goals, but that mountain is a very long way away. And it's probably too big a leap to get there in one step. It's not telling you exactly what to do right now, what path do you need to go on right now, what steps do you need to take. And so the second thing is to break down your goal into manageable chunks. Break that journey that you're going to do throughout the year so that it helps give you clarity on how to get started and makes it much more manageable. Now, in our carbon footprint example, your first step in the next couple of weeks, the next month, could be reach out to between 5 and 10 similar businesses we know and ask who helped them measure their carbon footprint, and did they use any software? Can they make a recommendation, or can they make an introduction? That might be it. That's your first step. Reach out to those people you already know and ask them what they did. So we've got stepping stones on here. Work out what are your stepping stones, break down that goal into manageable chunks so you know what steps to take first. And then the third thing to do is to make sure that you schedule in times to check in on progress. And that could be weekly, it could be monthly. There might be some things you check in on weekly, there might be some things you check in on monthly, there might be some bigger things you check in on quarterly. But it helps to think about upfront how you're going to do that and actually block out that time in your diary or build that check-in into an existing meeting that you've got. So you already know upfront when your check-in points are going to be at throughout the year. Let's go back to the carbon footprint example. Imagine that you've said, okay, in February, we are going to reach out to between 5 and 10 businesses. And so maybe each week you've got a planning meeting as a team and you say, okay, well, each week, let's see how we're doing against reaching out to those 5 to 10 businesses, and let's track how many replies we've got to see if we're on target to reach that objective by the end of February. And as you check in during the week, you realize that you're not making the progress that you planned. And so take that time to ask why. Explore with your team, what is it that's going on? What's the blocker here? So, for example, it could be that the team haven't had time. Maybe, you could then ask questions to find out, well, what have you been spending time on? Can we help to take, can I help take things off your plate? Are there lower priority activities that are acting as distractions? Well, why is that? What can we do about that? Or maybe it's one person who's been given the task and it would help to share it out. Or equally, if they don't know who to contact, maybe you could spend 15 minutes as a team creating a list and then dividing it up between you rather than leaving it all to one person where it might sort of seem a bit difficult and insurmountable. So to summarize those 3 steps, set goals, break them down into manageable chunks, and then regularly check in on progress and intentionally clear the blockers, the things that are stopping you making progress. Every single business, even the most sustainable ones out there, have still got improvements they can make, and they've got scope to deliver more impact. And if you follow those 3 steps, then you will be in a different place at the end of the year. Now, have I got time, Dave, to give a quick bonus tip? Yeah? Okay. Bonus tip. This is going to help you really maximize the impact you're having. So if you want to make a really meaningful difference, then you need to make sure that what you're actually doing matters. There are too many businesses that are out there busy doing lots of lovely stuff, but is it actually making a difference? And has it made a bigger difference than would have happened otherwise, or a bigger impact than the other things they could have chosen to spend their time doing? And so I'd really encourage you to get into the habit of asking yourself and your team, so what? So for example, one that might be familiar to quite a few of us, hey, we held an International Women's Day event this year. Well, so what? How did it impact the day-to-day experience of women within our business? Or we donated £1,000 to charity. Well, so what? What difference did that actually make? We delivered 50 hours of pro bono work. Well, so what? What would have happened otherwise? Or we implemented a new travel policy. So what? Did anyone make any significant changes as a result of that policy change? What was the impact on your carbon footprint? So what was the real world impact of that? So hopefully you get the idea with those examples. So rather than just take action, it's always important to understand why that matters and whether it's actually going to make a meaningful difference. So really important to keep asking, so what? So adding it on, that's your 3 steps to take to ensure you're making a meaningful difference, and then just keep asking that question, so what, to make sure you're on the right track and you're doing the right things. Now, hopefully that has been helpful. If you'd like, it's been a very brief intro. If you'd like some more support, I've got a free Scale Up Your Impact guide that you can download from my website, and hopefully Dave's going to stick the link in the chat. Thank you, Dave. So please do download that. Hopefully that gives you some more ideas of things you can do to actually create that actionable plan, create those manageable chunks. And please do reach out, connect with me on LinkedIn. I know I'm connected with quite a few of you already, but those of you who I'm not connected with, please do reach out and connect with me. And if you've got specific questions, then please feel free to ask.
Hannah, that's absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much. Just brilliant fab hot tips and bonus hot tips as well on how we can really make sure that our businesses are truly making a difference in 2024. And I mentioned earlier, no, Chris has been gorgeous and has dropped the link for Hannah into the chat feed as well. We also mentioned that Hannah is a TEDx speaker. Chris is also going to drop a link to Hannah's TED Talk in the chat feed. Please do give it a watch whenever you get a spare moment. It is absolutely brilliant. Hannah, thank you again. You're an absolute star and our impact trailblazer. Thank goodness we've got you. And now for our next guest speaker, Hannah, thank you to you as well. And to everybody who's here today, honestly, it's such a fantastic community and it's wonderful to have you back for the start of the year. And on to our next guest speaker. I'm delighted to introduce the very lovely Manuel Schlothauer, inclusion and belonging expert, founder of Hey Manuel, authentic leadership trailblazer, and of course, one of our brilliant includability ambassadors. Manuel, great to have you with us as always, my friend, and the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dave. You must have practiced my last name for a few hours before this call, because usually people struggle a bit with that. As you can hear from my thick German accent, I am from Germany, and you pronounce it like a slow tower, but with a sh. So Schlothauer, and you did it fantastically well. Very well done. I'm not the biggest Zoom expert, but I'm sure I can make it happen to just share what I need to share. So let me do that. Can you see my screen? Fantastic. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for the lovely introduction. Very easy for me, of course, to speak after a TEDx speaker, no pressure at all. But it's so nice to be here with you this morning, or if you're dialing in for somewhere else this evening, afternoon, wherever you might be, welcome. It is a topic that is near and dear to my heart, authentic leadership. It's what I do on a day-to-day basis. And it's just gorgeous that you take the time to be with us today to get some learnings for your own leadership, for the leaders that you support. I could be talking for hours and hours about this topic, but I'm trying to keep it brief. I have a timer right in front of me to make sure that I don't go wild, and we just go as far as we get, and then I'm okay to cut it short. So today I will share a few learnings from 2023 from the type of work that I'm doing, all about authentic leadership. I would share a few learnings from the therapy and coaching world, from mediation and consulting, from HR, from horizontal leadership, and also from self-leadership. And some of those things you might be very clear on what that means. Other things you might have no idea what those mean, and I will get into more details there. And I can share a lot more. If you have any specific questions, feel free to reach out to me. But I will just share with you my top 5. So one learning from each of those categories. So who am I? Why am I here? Why am I qualified to talk about this at all? I'm a therapist. I'm a coach. I specialize mainly in supporting underrepresented communities and men's mental health with a big focus on authentic leadership. And I also work as a consultant, supporting organizations, for-profits, non-for-profits, mainly at the complex intersection of mental health, DEI, HR, and leadership. This is where most of my experience lies. And over the years, as a therapist and coach, I worked with hundreds of clients for all sorts of topics, whether it's lack of authenticity or body image issues or addiction, sexual performance, you name it. So if you are looking for a therapist or coach, I might be your person. Of course, not overselling me here. So let's directly jump into the therapy and coaching world. So over 2023, I checked, I worked with more than 100 clients through one-to-one work, through hybrid and group programs, corporate programs, and retreats. I love a good retreat, flying somewhere beautiful, having amazing food, and then also getting paid for that. And this is what I want my life to be. And the recurring theme that I've seen in most of my conversations was authentic leadership. And often people think that they are great leaders, and they also think that they are authentic. And they also think that they are great authentic leaders. But when I work with them, often I see there's a bit of room for improvement, both on the leadership front as well as the authenticity front. And when I work with clients, I almost mandate for everyone to do therapy and coaching. I had lots and lots of therapy in the past myself, and I found when I work with a good therapist, which is hard to find, I got those insights, but then I didn't know what to do with all those insights. So I tried coaching. Coaching was really effective to move me into action, help me understand my goals, but then it really didn't go deep enough. So now I do a bit of both for everyone that I work with. And over the years of working with those clients, I found that there was one difference between the clients that got great results and those that got incredible results, right? And of course, we already do great and incredible. And the difference was embracing vulnerability. It's the ability to allow yourself to be vulnerable and also understanding what might stand in the way between you and your vulnerability and what might be holding you back. So this is your takeaway number 1 for authentic leadership. What I found through my work, therapy and coaching, is embracing vulnerability and being as open as you possibly can, because usually honesty drives clarity, drives psychological safety as well with those around you. So then next to my work in therapy and coaching, I also offer some consulting and mediation. And often senior leaders would approach me and request a mediation between, let's say, 2 directors that don't talk to each other, or maybe team assimilation between a team and their leader that just got really poor manager feedback. And when I say they request it, they usually try to force them into the mediation. Like, okay, you need to fix this. Those 2 people need to talk to each other again. Otherwise, it really impacts our business. But number 1 rule of mediation is that it's voluntary. So if one of you is involved in mediation, it's voluntary. You need to want to be part of that process. You need to want to be part of that relationship. So if you imagine those 2 directors that don't talk to each other, it can be quite tricky to get them on the same page and make it a voluntary process. So it's very important for you to first understand your own needs and wants as you move into such a conversation. But as a leader, you also want to be able to help other people understand their needs so that you can have a conversation together as a leader and the people around you based on your needs instead of an emotional battle. For instance, if I say, Dave, you never listen to me, that is a position. This is emotionally charged. What my need really is, hey, you know, Dave, when you do this, I don't feel listened to. I don't feel heard. What I really need is to be listened to. And for that to happen, I would love for you to do X, right? All of a sudden, it's a way more meaningful conversation because we talk about needs instead of emotional charge in my position. And of course, that again creates psychological safety, trust, and dependability. And then people also see the value of those conversations more than when they're forced into meetings or interventions, right? So this time last year, 31st of January 2023, I was still in a senior HR position at Google. Fast forward 12 months later and also 12,000 layoffs later, including my own. I'm now fully self-employed. I had my business since 2020 on the side, and evenings and weekends, which wasn't really sustainable, but that's a whole different conversation. But now being in this position of supporting people after a layoff and having worked in HR before, I can see the layoffs, the redundancies from all sorts of directions, from different angles. And I was personally the task force preparing the redundancies at Google. And based on my experience working with senior leaders, also supporting them with the knowledge, the skills, and the mindset that they need to have those really challenging conversations. Before, a few days later, I was impacted myself, which was, well, not a nice experience, but you know, that's just how work in HR sometimes goes. And many global companies last year, through the redundancies, try to be as close to the US, where most people have their headquarters, as possible. That means overnight access cuts and surprise emails to those being affected. And luckily, in the EU and the UK, we have employment laws to protect employees from those experiences, right? But there's also learning there for our authentic leaders, and that's care and empathy. You might not always be able to do exactly what you want as a leader. There might be someone above you and someone above them as well. But if you can, I encourage you to use your position to question what's being done, to impact it, right? And to use your care and empathy, genuine care and empathy, not just corp speak, to shift and change what's being done. So if you can avoid laying off a parent who's in labor, absolutely please do it. But if you can't do that, at least try to cater for these niche cases, right? Instead of just catering for the vast majority and the average employee that's going through this conversation and the situation. So care and empathy really is the takeaway here, being genuine in caring for every little niche situation, because if you care about the extremes, you also care about the average person in between those extremes. That's been my experience so far. So then horizontal leadership, what does that actually mean? So when I moved in a matter of a few days from a senior role in HR in a multi-100,000 employee company to being in a business of one, I had to redefine what leadership means to me. And my secret sauce over the years has always been collaboration. And it's my secret sauce now on a day-to-day basis as well, whether I work together with other therapists and coaches, retreat hosts, with clients, with video editors. It's key for me in every interaction and transaction to make sure it's a collaboration, that there's impact and growth for both sides, right? Not just for me or not just for the other person. And this has been woven into every leadership consultation I've done over my 8 years at Google. But even now, I try to make this happen in every conversation I have, even with my one-to-one clients. So ask yourself how you can change your relationships, your conversations, and meetings and turn them more into collaborations instead of transactions, where you can both get something out of it, right? You can both have a win-win situation. And then moving towards the end, if we think about my life outside of work, of course, I'm just a regular human, right? I need to eat, I need to move, I need to love, I need to get dressed and travel. And that can be a lot, right? And January for me has been particularly tough. I live in Dublin, in Ireland. It's been very gray today. Even today, we had some sunshine earlier and it's gone. It's gray, it's dark, and my energy is really a bit of a roller coaster. Like yesterday in the morning, it was so sunny. I went for a 2-hour walk, went to the beach, had some coffee outside. I was so energized with like, okay, today's the day I'm gonna get everything done on my to-do list, but then in the afternoon, my energy was completely gone. And it's normal. That happens, right? So my number 5 takeaway for you is self-compassion. So we won't always get it right? We will have days where nothing seems to work out, where we get nothing done on our to-do list, or we leave a meeting knowing that we, excuse my language, that we fucked up, right? And that's okay. And just because we had a bad meeting doesn't mean that we need to have a whole bad day, or just because we had a bad day doesn't mean it's a whole bad week. We can always start from scratch the next day. We're not bad people. We're all just learning and growing. And that's scary, but that's also exciting. So be compassionate with yourself and say, you know what? It's okay if I don't get it always right, if not every conversation and meeting is absolutely amazing. So to wrap things up, I also have 2 quick invites for you. If you enjoyed this type of content, learning from different aspects of therapy and coaching and mediation and all parts of this type of work, I have a WhatsApp community where I have just wonderful people in there. It's mainly LGBTQ plus and queer professionals, but we also have many, many allies in there. And it's mainly my clients, past clients, current clients, and a few people that I just think are fantastic people. And anyone who works with includability, I consider to be a fantastic person. So if you are interested to join a community where we help each other, where we share some learnings every week, on Sunday, I share my musings, a bit of an exercise maybe for you as well. And it's just a fantastic way to connect. So if you are interested in joining that fantastic community, I share my contact details in a second. You can just reach out to me and just drop me a message saying WhatsApp. And that will be enough for me to get the details over to you about the WhatsApp community. And then invite number 2, and then I'm done, is a lovely case study that I'm participating in. I'm working with other therapists and coaches, and we follow a particular structure of coaching and therapy sessions, both one-to-one and in a hybrid setting. And we followed that structure over the number of years, and now we really want to capture the voice of the client and understand, hey, when are people excited about therapy? When are they nervous? How can we an absolutely amazing experience for everyone? It's something that you look forward to and not like a dentist appointment. And to capture those insights, we have a few prompts throughout the process, and you get €500 off as a discount, as a reward for participating in the case study. So if you're interested to learn a bit more, also want to make this super, super easy. We have 5 spots in the case study. They're already gone, but I negotiated I have 2 more for people on the call today. So if you are interested, just drop me a message saying case study, and I can get the details to you. On that note, I wish you all the best for 2024, for your authentic leadership, yourself as a leader, for the people around you. And if it's the first time on this call for you, please do come again and again and again, because these calls are just absolutely amazing. And this QR code, you can scan it. It's my LinkedIn, but I also dropped it in the chat earlier. So thank you for that.
And now I am delighted to introduce our 3rd guest speaker, another of our brilliant includability ambassadors, the wonderful Melissa Sterling, Global Wellness and Belonging Manager at Holland Barrett. Mel, it's incredible to see you as always. Thank you so much for being with us today, and the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And it's such a privilege to be here. And I feel like definitely you've set the bar high with the other 2 speakers that have come before me. So it's really great. And actually the breakout room conversation that we just had was really helpful too. So more of that, please, would be great. So yeah, I've got about 10 minutes, Dave, I think, to talk about the power of colleague networks. And I'm not a Zoom expert, but I'm going to try and share my screen just to help me stay on track with the conversation, because a bit like Manuel, I could talk about this topic all day long. There's so many different directions I could go in, but let me try and stay concise. So go here. Can you see my screen?
Mel, you're perfect. We've got you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So before I kick off, I just wanted to do a little bit more about me and talking about why I'm here and why I guess qualified to talk about colleague networks. So my experience around diversity and inclusion started probably around 6 years ago in my previous organisation. So I worked at Sainsbury's for a number of years, and actually before officially having a corporate role in D&I and wellbeing, I actually was one of the network leads for the race and ethnicity colleague network there for over 4 years. And during my time, I worked in leadership development, learning and development as well, and often picked up the kind of diversity and inclusion initiatives as part of my role, whether that was for leaders or designing learning material. So it was a really interesting way I got into D&I. So I was a specialist and then a manager at Sainsbury's before obviously coming over to Holland Barrett and now heading up wellbeing and diversity and inclusion. I was really lucky to get a 6-month programme and get a place on that. It was quite intense during the beginning of my tenure in D&I at Sainsbury's, so that really helped me be set up for success. And I just wanted to call out some personal achievements, because if you're not going to shout about it yourself, no one else is. So I'm unashamedly sharing some proud achievements of mine. So I made the retail grocer list this year for my LGBTQ+ activism. So I was in the top 10 list. I was awarded a D&I SME Champion Winner Award from Women's Business Club. And most recently, I got appointed as the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Independent Governor for the University of Wolverhampton, which is actually where I'm from, if you haven't already guessed from the accent. I am a yam through and through. So I just wanted to flash up really quickly some pictures of our amazing colleagues, some of which from our various colleague networks. So for a little bit of context, Holland Barrett is over 150 years old and have never had networks before I joined the business 18 months ago. So kind of late 2022 throughout 2023, we made an effort to really think about what are the elements that are needed in the business to support both our colleagues and some of our goals. And what's been really, really great is actually when I came into the organisation, there was already so many passionate colleagues that were already doing some fantastic things. And actually the networks almost felt organic. It wasn't me having to try and source or understand exactly what was needed. There was pockets of passion there, which I very much built on. So I'm sure many of us hear that colleague networks are fantastic for an organisation. So some of the things that you may have heard would be that they provide a sense of belonging and it's a great culture add for your organisation. They really help strive for equity across underrepresented communities, because you now have a group of colleagues that are passionate, contactable, and really want to support, drive change. And of course, for those individuals themselves, there's an opportunity to connect with others with maybe shared backgrounds or interests, or potentially even as an ally. And lastly, there's an opportunity for the business to really drive the efforts that they're trying to do. And I'm sure there's so many more benefits that we could list. But on the flip side of that, I hear a lot of challenges when it comes to the networks, and I'm sure some of these will resonate at some point on your journey in your organisation. So things that I hear, someone somewhere said it would be a good idea to start a network. So that in itself, it's like really vague. This is a good idea. Maybe there are a group of eager colleagues that are already trying to make things happen all alone, and it can feel a little bit disjointed. Maybe it's feeling a little bit rogue, going off and doing lots of different things with all good intent, but there isn't kind of that structure in place there. It might be that you have networks already that have been set up, but they start to feel like they've plateaued over time and there's not kind of that same energy and fire in the belly like in the beginning. And lastly, I often hear, I don't know if they're actually doing well. And that's really tying into some of the things that Hannah was saying earlier. I really liked the goal setting and all the steps you shared, because I think everything that you've said is really applicable here, which you'll see as I go into the next part. So with all that in mind, where do you start when it comes to networks? And I'm going to hopefully in the next 6 minutes talk you through some bits that I would suggest you do if I was going to start up colleague networks all over again. So it's really thinking about getting the basics right in the first instance. And a little bit like Hannah was saying, it seems quite obvious, but actually there's a lot of questions you need to ask yourself and really think about in the setting up stages. Are we doing it in the most effective way for your organization? And I can't stress enough how this can look quite differently depending on the type of business you are, where you are in the world, if you're international or not, all these different bits and pieces. So some of the first questions I'd be asking is, what's the driver? Where's the request coming from? And like I said earlier, when I came to H&B, there was already pockets of passion of people trying to do things. And that's fantastic. It's actually a bit of an advantage because you've already got colleagues, in particular underrepresented communities, that want to support. But actually, sometimes, let's be honest, we can fall into the trap of comparing ourselves to other organisations. Our competitor on LinkedIn has done this thing. That looks like a great thing to do. Let's do it. But is that going to really deliver what you need to? And that, you know, kind of goes on quite nicely to the next question. What is the need? And you need to identify if there is one. And sometimes it's okay to say, we can't do everything all at once because the space of wellbeing and diversity inclusion is massive. So what is the most important need for your organisation at the moment? And actually, if that is through a network, it's okay to start with one network. You don't need 7, 8, 10 networks like some really mature businesses may have. And then also thinking about what the actual network's going to look like. What's the most appropriate type of network? And I think that's something that isn't always considered. And I don't know if everybody considers that there can be various types of networks, because we use ERG and networks really fluidly. So, for example, is your network almost in a committee style? So is it kind of like a sounding board panel type network where you're going to use teams from around the business to use them as a sounding board for feedback, and it's quite transactional? Or is it going to be the type of network where actually we identified in our need that our colleagues are telling us that they want to find more people with shared experiences like them, and actually want to connect with others? So is it a purely internal colleague network, kind of buddy system type network? Or, and kind of the last kind of bucket I'd put this into is a bit more of a formalized, almost like a project team. So you have the colleagues in the different communities and they're very much there with specific roles, responsibilities, hierarchy, and they support to drive very intentional change that the business has set out, whether that's from your D&I or wellbeing teams. And that's very much where we are at H&B. We went for the latter because of that real passion and desire to do that. And that really leads me nicely on to recruiting the right people. And from my experience, I've learned in networks, there tends to be 3 types of people that get drawn into a network. You have the leader, you have the dreamer, and you have the doer. And all 3 are so important, but it's really key that you have a variety of them and that they're in the right kind of roles. So you definitely want the leader in your kind of chair positions and obviously lead positions, people that can really align vision with practicality and organising large groups of people, versus the dreamer, where you might have an individual that's really passionate, has maybe been in the business for quite a while, or has experience from other organisations to say, actually, I've got all this experience I can draw on, and I've got great blue sky thinking and all these different bits and pieces that I think would be fantastic. And then you've also got the doer, the people that like to get stuff done. They like a to-do list, an action list, clarity, and want to box things off. And honestly, between those 3 kind of roles and people, colleague networks can really thrive. And I guess the last point I'd say on this one is the importance of senior sponsors. So all of our networks have co-sponsors from our senior leadership team. So it's kind of our director levels, to make sure that they're also being held accountable for things. They're joining meetings every month and they're unblocking some of the challenges, because I think that's one of the things that we don't talk about with networks is the amount of blockers that you might fall into. And sometimes it's quite nice having a director of a particular area to go, we're trying to do this thing that we said we were going to do and we're really struggling to make it happen. Can you unblock that for us? And then they're using their kind of power to support that. And then lastly, with basics, I would say leading with data and becoming data obsessed. And again, I can't believe how much this is aligning to kind of Hannah's talk around the so what. So when you're thinking about setting up the networks, what is kind of the macro vision? So yes, your vision, your mission, your purpose, but then thinking about those micro steps. So what does 3 months, 6 months, a year look like? And how are we going to keep checking in, start, stop, continue doing as a result of it? And that's great in terms of setting those basics up, but you've also got to keep those cogs moving. So really thinking about engagement. And I think this is a big one that maybe gets knocked down the priority list and where we can see networks plateau. So although we're going to have sponsors, you might have chairs, leads, etc., there has to be a dedicated individual, whether that's in your HR team or D&I wellbeing, whatever appropriate team, to keep those chairs, leads engaged, checking in with them, how are things going, offering guidance and support with anything that they might need. And for us, that's kind of our team where we step in and we manage that. I think secondly, there's a little bit around setting a bit of a precedence that you coach your leaders, so your chairs and your sponsors, to have the initiative to keep that network driving. You don't want to fall into the danger of it actually becomes a HR network, not a colleague-led network. And I think sometimes that can be really hard to have those boundaries, because you don't want to not be involved at all and have no idea what's happening, and there's lots of activity that you were unaware of. You want it to feel aligned to your wider kind of wellbeing and D&I strategy, but also giving them the empowerment and the freedom to do what they need to. Another one that I think is really key is reminding yourself that actually these colleagues are volunteers and they're doing things on top of their day jobs. So really thinking about how can you keep refreshing the network and providing opportunities for those people in exchange for their time, knowledge, expertise, and experiences. So is it really leaning and connecting in with the senior sponsors to say, let's make sure we're getting networks on the exec meetings, and let's invite some of the coordinators along to talk about what they're doing, give them some exposure and an opportunity to be in the rooms they might not typically be in. Or it might be, let's set some guidelines around, we agree that a chair will be in role for 2 years, and we give other people an opportunity to step up that are looking to develop their career. They can then say, I was a lead in this network, and that will help them with career progression in another part of the business. And I think lastly, like I've said already, really thinking about data obsession and getting into a mindset of talking about that every single time you're connecting, and also recognizing and praising creativity too. So really thinking about those dreamers. How do you bring that blue sky thinking into the practical steps? So that's how I would say you'd keep the cogs moving. So I think I'm out of time, Dave. So I'm going to wrap up there. And I've put my link in already in the chat, but if you wanted to scan the QR code to connect with me on LinkedIn, I could talk about this all day. But if anybody wants to have a chat about networks or setting them up, or any challenges with existing networks, I'd be more than happy to have some conversations.
Mel, you are amazing as ever. Thank you so much. We get so many brilliant inquiries into the community around colleague networks, how they're set up, how to engage, how to make sure they remain alive and full of purpose. So we're so lucky that Mel is one of our brilliant includability ambassadors. Mel, you're wonderful. Thank you so much. Please reach out to her. She is phenomenal. Mel, thank you so much for allowing us to steal you away today, of course, as well. Really interestingly, Holland and Barrett are currently going through the process to become an includability committed employer themselves. They're so nearly through. And I know that all of the verification partners have loved talking with Mel about the brilliant plans and initiatives she's working so hard on. What an absolute trailblazer. Mel, thank you so much again. And now, just before I introduce you to our final guest, I'd love you to vote for our charitable project that we can support on your behalf this morning through our partnership with B1G1. For those who are new to the ESG, if you haven't heard of B1G1, please do check them out. They have utterly, utterly transformed the way we look at impact, the UN Sustainable Development Goals. They're an extraordinary organization, a brilliant certified B Corp that supports hundreds of charitable projects, both in the UK and internationally, all positively impacting the UN SDGs. So you are doing an incredible thing for the planet simply by being awesome and just hanging out with us this morning. So, yeah, you. So Chris is going to drop these into the chat feed now. 3 projects to choose from, and simply pop the letter of your chosen project in the feed. Project A, Project B, or Project C. Chris is going to drop those into the chat feed for you now for you to select, and we'll make sure that we make that commitment on your behalf this morning. And as you cast your votes, I'm delighted to introduce our very own James Pravato as our marketing director. James is absolutely integral to all the great stuff that happens at Includability and within our brilliant community. He is, in essence, a wizard. And I'm thrilled that he's going to be talking you through Includability 2.0. James, thanks so much, mate. And over to you.
So I'm hoping you can see my screen.
We've got you, mate. Brilliant.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Okay, so we don't really do a lot of sales. As you know, if you've ever been on the ESGs, we try to focus on the superstars, and we're very much about trying to make sure that we are educating and not selling to people on the ESGs. But what we really wanted to do was give you a quick update on what we've been doing and the stuff that myself and Dave have been working on probably for the last 6 months in terms of creating a more improved version of Includability. Now, to give you a little bit of an idea, originally Includability was designed to be a verification process that then gave you access to a job board. And what we found there was essentially the job board, the verification process itself, everybody loved, but the job board was only really used by a few companies. So what we've done is we've focused very heavily now on the verification process, and that verification process now we have been developing over the last 6 months and basically building a better version of this to take ourselves into our second iteration of Includability, as it were. So what we've done there is we've created a whole new partner expertise. We have included now companies and organizations and people who have worked with everybody from SMEs to FTSE 250 companies. And although they've worked with them, they've also worked in those types of companies. So that gives us a great opportunity. And when you go through the verification process to become a committed employer, you will get access to their amazing skills and their amazing insights, which we believe now is probably one of the best verification processes that you can go through to get access and to become a committed employer. So we still cover the same areas. We're still doing D&I, sustainability, mental health, well-being, talent management, and leadership and governance. But we've also added in partnerships, and we've also added in B Corp. So we are very B Corp inclined, but we do realise that that's not the be-all and end-all of it all. Excuse the pun. So it's not, though, just a handshake, a badge, and a trophy. What we didn't want to do was just for companies to go through the verification process, be given a badge, be given a trophy, and then to say, lovely to see you. Thank you for your time. We'll see you in a couple of years, because that's not what we think is the best thing moving forward for organizations. But you do get those. You will get a badge, a trophy, and also possibly a Dave cuddle as well. So here is the badge. Here is what the trophy looks like. And here's Dave cuddling some people. These are all part of what we do. And that is really important for us, and which is why the ESGs are such a nice, friendly environment for everybody. But as part of this, we also wanted to give something that was tangible, something that you could walk away with and use. What we understand is that HR directors and HR managers are absolutely overworked quite often. And what we wanted to do was help them by creating a report based on the information that they'd supplied. So from 2024, we'll be helping your business on your journey to become a better business and a more committed employer by supplying you with a verification report. And that report will give you a context and overview of every pillar. It will give you an analysis of all the amazing, brilliant things that you're doing. And then it will give you a list of areas maybe where there are challenges or areas of improvement. And ultimately, then a set of recommendations and conclusions, all based on the information that we've been supplied by during the verification process. So all new and existing includability committed employer companies going through the verification process will receive a VP report starting from January 2024. So the report will be downloadable from your client area. And you might be saying, James, I'm a committed employer. I didn't know we had a client area. That's because we've just built one. So we now have this great new client area where we have access to a whole host of information. It's a personalized private area, and your VP report will sit in there, and you can basically get access to that at any time. But it's not just for the committed employers. It's also for if you're an ambassador, a partner, an ICE includability committed employer, or a pending committed employer, then you will get access and can have access to this system. And we're going to drop the link in for anybody that's on that wants to set up an account today. It has a checklist of everything that you're going to go through as part of the includability process. It also gives you access, as I said, to your VP report. If you are starting your process and you need access to the customer commitment survey, it's also housed in there. There's also a huge awareness day calendar, believe there's around 500 different awareness days that we've created and added in there. And there's also all the videos and stuff, the shorts and all the verification process videos. So all our VPs have done a video just to give you an idea of what the process is and what you will expect when you talk to them. So also in there is our new reward scheme. Now, the reward scheme is Dave's baby, and this is for everything that you do within includability, from coming on an ESG to signing up for the client area. You will get points that you can put towards B1, G1 projects. So every time you do book a course or do anything within includability, you will get points, and those points will go into your into the reward scheme, and you can spend those on B1, G1 projects, everything from that are D&I projects to sustainability projects. There's loads of different things that you can use those points for. So we also have this new system, which is called our partner experts. And our partner experts are ambassadors, verification partners, and partner companies who've shown the highest level of quality training and consultancy. Now, wherever you see this badge, you will know that that person has gone through a process within includability to attain that badge by doing exactly what we said there. So my job today was to talk about how includability and engage kind of come together. So I'm going to kind of introduce you now to what engage is. And engage is a link between includability and the next step, which is in helping you on your journey before you become re-verified 2 years later. So what it is a single source for expert training, workshops, and courses. So engage is essentially for us the next step to becoming a better business. It enables you as a company to get access to training solutions, webinars, and courses from trusted partner experts. So all the people that we're recommending have been through this process and have been part of includability for a period of time and shown that expertise. So how Engage works is it uses your verification report and your customer commitment survey to understand your specific needs and goals. And we will basically work with you to develop a program that's tailored to your company's culture, needs, and budget. So whether you're a large organization, an enterprise, or you're an SME, there is the ability for you to use Engage as a solution for your training, your workshops, your lunch and learns, your webinars, all from expert people. So what are the benefits? Essentially, we found when we spoke to HR managers and directors, there is an issue with the amount of time that they have and the amount of resourcing that it takes to find the right people to come in and do the training and workshops for them. So what we wanted to do was reduce the amount of time that takes to do that. Now we have a massive network of experts. So we have now have a list essentially of courses and webinars and lunch and learns that we can help you go through and find the right solution for your business. So it will keep you up to date essentially with all the new areas that are evolving. As we've heard earlier, you know, D&I is a massive area and it evolves continuously. And you know, with these experts, you will get access to keep up to date with the information that you need for your business to keep moving forward. Obviously, the key benefit of that is that there are also exclusive discounts which are available for includability committed employers. Now, every one of these is only available through Includability, and we're absolutely privileged that these companies and organisations and experts have allowed us to kind of collate a list of everything that they do and then offer that to you as a discount. So what it is it's not just about obviously mental health sustainability, but it's also about working together. A lot of companies focus on one area. Obviously with Includability, we focus on a lot of areas, and that's massively important in kind of moving your organization forward. So last bit of it, and the very last bit, is that also what we'll be doing in hopefully in the next sort of next month and a half is to start building a learning management system, which will have a host of free and discounted training solutions across a range of topics that will all be available online and through the Engage platform. So if you're interested and you want to have a chat, please book a discovery call with Dave. He will be massively overexcited to talk to you about Engage and tell you about all the amazing things that we can help you with and help your company moving forward. Just want to say as well, just brilliant ESG today. Thank you so much for coming. We really do appreciate it. It's a lot to kind of put these on every month, and it's great when we have a fantastic turnout. So I'll pass you back to Dave.
James, you're amazing and awesome as ever. Thank you so much. And so many incredibly exciting developments within Includability to ensure we can provide, as James said, all the support you require to positively impact your workplace culture. And of course, the cuddles are optional, but you should know that they are freely given. James, thank you, mate. You are absolutely incredible. And the whole team, Danny, James, Chris, and myself are yours when you need us to answer any questions that you might have around the platform. We'd be delighted to hop on for a virtual cuppa whenever it works well for you. James, thank you again. One super important thing to know on top of that, of course, is the date of our next employee support group, and that will be happening on Wednesday, the 28th of Feb at 10:30 a.m., where we'll be hosting the amazing Katie Maycock, burnout specialist, and James Shorey, partnerships manager at Planet Mark, alongside soon-to-be-announced guest speakers. Please do join us. We'd absolutely love to have you there. And that registration link is going to be popped into the chat feed for you in the next few seconds from Chris. Chris, thanks so much, mate. That's wonderful. And that brings us to the end of our ESG this morning. A huge thank you to our brilliant guest speakers, to Hannah, Manuel, Mel, and James. What unbelievable legends you all are. Thank you for all of your insights and for sharing your wisdom with us today. And a huge, huge thank you to every single one of you for joining us this morning. You are the Includability community, and we can't create without change without you. So thank you again. Let's keep learning, let's keep growing, and let's keep working in partnership to develop that mentally healthy and inclusive workplace culture. Can't wait to see you all next month. Love to you all, and have an incredible rest of your week.